And now, BX Forever presents another RPG deep dive.
Welcome to another episode of BX Forever. This time, we're going to be taking a look at, we're going to be diving into the world of classic D&D.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, specifically an adventure module called Queen's Harvest. Have you heard of this one?
Queen's Harvest, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a classic, written by Carl Sargent. It's got a lot going on.
Yeah, so you gave me a bunch of really cool stuff to look at before this. We got maps of the game world, maps of dungeons, character profiles, and even some excerpts from the adventure itself.
Right.
So just from glancing over this material, it seems like this module is about a vengeful queen who's amassing forces. There's a mysterious wizard's death, and there's this quest to recover some really powerful artifacts.
Yeah, it's a great premise. And what's really fascinating to me about this module is that it goes beyond like a typical dungeon crawl.
Oh, okay.
There's a real depth to the story,
Yeah.
to the characters, even to the setting itself that sets it apart from, some of the more basic modules.
Yeah. So right away, just looking at the materials, we're introduced to a few different locations. We have Penhaligon, which I'm assuming is a town.
Yes, yeah.
We have Stalenford, and then, of course, the Queen's Keep.
Right. And each of these locations plays like a significant role in the story.
Okay, so would you say that, like, Penhaligon, it's kind of like the starting point?
Yeah, Penhaligon is like the bustling, starting town. It's kind of a microcosm of the larger conflict that's brewing,
Right.
The rumors of a brewing rebellion.
Gotcha.
Then you have Stalenford, which is like a smaller, more isolated village.
Mm.
And that's where players might encounter, someone like Erlich, who's a cleric,
Oh,
who
interesting.
can offer them valuable information,
Oh.
maybe even, a divine nudge in the right direction.
Right.
So it's kind of like a point where they can get some guidance.
Gotcha. And then, of course, we have the Queen's Keep, which, just from looking at the map, it seems like it's kind of like the ultimate destination.
Right. It's looming over everything, both literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
If you look at the area map, you really get a sense of like the journey ahead for anybody who's brave enough to seek it out. This isn't just like a quick walk across a field. It's a trek
Yeah.
across miles of potentially, dangerous territory.
Right. So even getting there is a challenge.
It underscores the sense of adventure,
Yeah.
a world larger than the players themselves.
Okay.
And that's before they even encounter, their first wandering monster.
Oh, wandering monsters. Okay, so this is a term that I'm familiar with from D&D, but for those who might be newer to the game, can you explain what a wandering monster is?
Yeah. It's a classic D&D element. Basically, think of it as a way to kind of spice things up, keep the players on their toes.
Right.
As they're journeying across the map, they have to roll on a wandering monster table.
Yeah.
And it could be anything. You could be some relatively harmless giant rats.
Right.
Or it could be something that makes even a seasoned adventurer sweat a little bit.
Oh, wow. Okay, so like it's not enough to just kind of like plan your route on a map.
No?
You also have to contend with the random encounters.
You have to navigate the unpredictable nature of the world itself.
That's really cool. So, to kind of get into that world, it seems like Queen's Harvest offers a pretty classic spread of pre-generated character options.
Right. You've got your fighters, your
Yeah.
clerics, your thieves, magic users, elves, dwarves, a party ready-made for adventure.
But what I thought was really interesting was the level of detail that that Carl Sargent gives to even the non-player characters.
Right.
So, we have the queen herself, we have this this rival, Ileana, and it's not just a case of like good queen, bad sorceress, right?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, like there are backstories, motivations, they even have game stats for these characters.
It speaks to the depth of the story that he was trying to create.
Yeah.
These aren't just like cardboard cutouts.
Right.
They're characters with their own agendas, their own desires,
Right.
their own flaws.
Right.
Take Ileana, for instance. She's presented as this powerful sorceress
Right.
who has a vendetta against the powers that be.
Mm-hmm.
But the adventure kind of hints that her motives might be more complicated
Right.
than simple revenge.
Oh, okay. What do we know about her motivations?
Well, so we learn that that she believes her family was unjustly robbed of the throne.
Oh, wow.
So, is she really the villain?
Right.
Or is she a wronged woman
Yeah.
seeking to reclaim what's rightfully hers?
Yeah, so already it seems like the lines between good and evil they're starting to blur a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I'm sure that makes for some, like, really interesting choices for the players.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of choices, one of the I guess early highlights
Yeah.
of Queen's Harvest is Kevorkian's dungeon.
Oh, right. So Kevorkian is the wizard whose death kind of sets the whole adventure in motion.
Exactly, yeah.
So, like, what was he doing in this dungeon?
Well, clearly he was up to some interesting business in his basement.
Oh.
Looking at the map,
Yeah.
you see, there's a concealed pit.
Mm-hmm.
There's a spiral staircase leading down into darkness.
Spooky.
There's a chamber guarded by zombies
Oh, wow.
and a room full of magical weapons.
So, I'm just looking at this map and I'm like, what do these rooms tell us about Kevorkian?
Right.
Like the concealed pit, does that suggest like a sense of like paranoia or something?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then zombies guarding a secret chamber? Like what was he hiding down there?
Who knows? That's for the players to find out.
It's like his dungeon is a reflection of his personality,
Right, yeah.
his fears, his ambitions. And the fact that his death is like shrouded in mystery
Exactly.
just adds another layer to the intrigue. Like,
Okay.
Was it an accident? Was it, some magical experiment gone wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Or was it something more sinister?
Exactly, yeah. And that's just the basement.
Oh, wow.
The rest of the dungeon is full of equally,
Right.
intriguing encounters.
Yeah.
And, of course, those ever-present wandering monsters.
I'm starting to understand why this module is considered such a classic.
Right.
It's not just about like fighting monsters and finding treasure. It's like you said, there's real depth here.
Mhm.
There's mystery. There's it sounds like there are some moral questions that players have to grapple with
Absolutely.
and choices that they have to make that have real consequences.
Yeah, it's all connected. And it all leads eventually to the Queen's Keep itself. But that's a story for another time.
Okay, so we're going to have to wait for part 2
Yeah.
to hear more about the Queen's Keep. So we've explored, like, the starting areas and Kevorkian's dungeon, but it seems like all roads lead to the Queen's Keep.
Yeah, it's the ultimate destination.
Yeah, and just looking at this map, too, this place is pretty intense.
It's fortified.
Yeah, it's like bristling with defenses.
Yeah, you've got gnolls in the towers, like hordes of goblins roaming the grounds, dire wolves patrolling the perimeter.
Wow.
And then, if that wasn't enough, there's a powerful ogre leading the defense.
Oh, man. So it's like, how do you even approach this place?
Well, that's where strategy comes in. That's where the players really have to think.
Yeah.
Because, the module gives us some interesting insights into the forces that are defending the keep.
Oh, okay.
So the orcs, for example, who are a large part of the Queen's army, they're actually quite disorganized.
Disorganized, really?
Yeah, they're divided into different tribes, constantly squabbling amongst themselves.
Oh, okay.
Their loyalty to the Queen is questionable at best.
Mhm.
It's driven more by fear than any kind of, like, true allegiance.
So a clever party might be able to, like, exploit that, right?
Exactly.
Like, divide and conquer.
Divide and conquer, classic tactic.
Yeah, very cool. But what about the keep itself? Like, are there any clues in the layout that the players could use to their advantage?
Oh, absolutely. So the keep is, it's this multi-level structure, right? It's got towers, battlements, all these interconnected rooms and chambers.
Okay.
It's a classic dungeon crawl, but on a, like, grander scale.
Right.
So you've got guard posts, barracks, a mess hall. There's even a treasure vault
Oh, nice.
guarded by the Queen's most trusted mercenaries.
Wait, mercenaries. So those are like wild cards, right?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
their loyalty is to whoever's paying them.
Right.
So what's stopping the players from, offering them a better deal?
Oh, that's interesting. So it's like, do you fight your way through or do you try to like bribe them?
Exactly.
Or maybe even play them against their employer?
It all comes down to, how the players want to play the game
Yeah.
and what their characters' motivations are.
So even within this like heavily fortified keep, there's still choices to be made.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's really cool. Speaking of cunning, we were talking about Ilyana before.
Yeah.
And we know that she has this vendetta against the Duke, who's supposed to be the rightful ruler.
Yeah.
But she's also stolen this powerful artifact, right? The sword and the tiara.
The sword and the tiara, right,
Yeah.
which is clearly more than just a fancy piece of jewelry.
Yeah, so like what makes it so special? What makes it so sought after?
It's said to be imbued with ancient magic,
Okay.
and it's capable of granting its wielder incredible power.
Wow.
And, you know, we don't get all the details in the module,
Right.
but there are hints that it might be linked to, like, an ancient prophecy,
Ooh.
maybe a forgotten kingdom, maybe even like a slumbering evil.
Classic fantasy tropes.
Yeah, but always effective.
So it sounds like whoever controls the sword and tiara, like, controls the fate of the entire region.
Yeah, the stakes are high.
Wow, yeah. But going back to Ileana, what's her end game?
Hmm.
Is it just revenge? Or is there something more to her plan?
Well, this is where it gets interesting.
Okay.
Because both Ileana and the players have a common enemy.
The Duke.
The Duke, right?
Okay.
And she has this incredibly powerful artifact that could be the key to defeating him.
So an alliance might be possible?
Yeah, even if it's temporary, it's a possibility.
Wow. So it's like, do you trust her? Can you work with her without compromising your own goals?
Right, and that's just one of the many dilemmas
Yeah.
that Queen's Harvest throws at the players.
It's not just like good versus evil.
It's more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
It's about navigating this complex web of alliances, betrayals, shifting loyalties.
It's almost like the adventure is a reflection of the political landscape.
Exactly.
Yeah, where nothing is like black and white.
Right, everything is shades of gray.
And that extends to the characters too, right?
yeah.
Like what about Bernal?
Bernal, right?
Diana's champion.
So he's this powerful warrior,
Okay.
completely devoted to her cause.
Mm.
He wields a magical sword, has incredible strength. He's basically her bodyguard, her enforcer.
He sounds pretty terrifying.
Yeah, he's a formidable opponent, but the module describes him as grim and taciturn
Okay.
and driven by this single-minded loyalty
To Ileana.
to Ileana. So it makes you wonder,
Yeah.
is it blind obedience?
Right.
Or is there room for questioning, for dissent?
Yeah, especially in this context where like allegiances are so fluid.
Right, exactly.
We've talked a lot about the Queen, Ileana, Bernal, but what about the Duke?
The Duke, right, the one they're all fighting over.
Yeah, like what's his deal?
He's an interesting character. A bit of an enigma, I guess you could say.
Okay.
He's presented as the rightful ruler, but there are these hints that he might have come to power through some less than honorable means.
So his legitimacy is kind of in question.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. So it's like, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy?
It's up to the players to decide how they feel about him. Do they support him
Yeah.
because he represents stability,
Right?
or do they see him as a corrupt tyrant
Wow.
who needs to be overthrown?
And that's what's so cool about this module. It's not telling you what to think. It's presenting you with this complex situation. And it's like, what do you believe is right?
Yeah, it's all about choice.
Your choices, your actions, they shape the story.
It's a very different approach
Yeah.
than some of those older modules.
It's not just like, go here, kill this, get the treasure.
Right. It's a much richer experience.
Yeah, it's about politics. It's about power. It's about morality.
And it's all set against this backdrop of, potential apocalypse.
Oh, right. That's right. We got so caught up in the political intrigue that we almost forgot about the sword and the tiara and this, like, world-ending threat.
It's a good reminder that, even in a fantasy world, the personal and the political are often intertwined with these larger cosmic forces.
But on a more practical level, what kinds of challenges do players face?
Well, aside from the obvious threats from the Queen's forces, Queen's Harvest has a lot of those classic D&D elements.
Okay.
Traps, puzzles,
Yeah.
secrets.
Right. Like, what were some of the things we saw in Kevorkian's basement?
Well, there was that concealed pit
Yeah.
that could trap unwary adventurers.
Right. And the secret chamber with the zombies.
Yeah, it seems like this module
Yeah.
is constantly throwing curveballs
Yeah.
at the players and forcing them to think on their feet.
It sounds like a really dynamic experience.
That's a good reminder that D&D is ultimately a collaborative storytelling experience.
Mm-hmm.
The module provides the framework,
Yeah.
but it's the dungeon master and the players
Right.
who really bring it to life.
And with all these different factions and moral dilemmas, it seems like no two playthroughs of Queen's Harvest would be the same.
It's a truly dynamic adventure.
Yeah. And it's a reminder that even in a world of magic and monsters, it's the human element that often drives the most compelling stories. It's really cool how Queen's Harvest has all those, the classic D&D things like the dungeon crawling and the combat and finding loot. But it also has all this other stuff.
Right.
Like the morality and the tough choices.
It makes you think
Yeah.
about like what you would do
Right.
if you were in that world.
Yeah.
Would you be on the Duke's side?
Even with all the rumors and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or would you side with Ileana?
Right.
Even though who knows what she'll do?
And she's got that powerful artifact.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's a third option,
Oh, yeah.
a third path.
Forge your own destiny.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I love about D&D. Yeah.
There's no right answer.
It depends on your character,
Right, your values.
your choices.
Yeah, it's a real group effort.
It all comes down to choice.
Yeah, and Queen's Harvest, it doesn't make those choices easy.
No, not at all.
So to kind of sum up our deep dive here,
Yeah.
it's clear that Queen's Harvest is a really cool mix of like old school D&D and then all this thought-provoking stuff.
Right.
It's got memorable character.
They've all got their own motivations,
Yeah.
their own secrets.
It makes you want to learn more about them.
Yeah, and the setting is so well described.
Right, it feels like a real place.
It really draws you in.
And it makes you think strategically.
Oh, yeah, in combat, in how you talk to people.
Do you use brute force or do you use your brain?
Exactly.
Do you team up or do you go solo?
So many possibilities.
And don't forget about that artifact.
The sword and the tiara?
Yeah, it feels like that's going to be a big deal.
Definitely.
It really keeps you on the edge of your seat.
It really does. It's amazing what a good game can do.
Yeah, it takes you to another world.
Yeah.
Makes you think about things in a different way.
But even though we've reached the end of our deep dive here,
Yeah.
it still feels like there are unanswered questions.
Like what would happen if the players had made different choices?
Right.
What happens to the world in the end?
And I guess the biggest question is...
What path would you take?
Yeah.
What choices would you make?
That's what makes Queen's Harvest so special.
Yeah.
It's a story that never really ends.
Because you're a part of it.
You get to help write it.
Exactly.
Well, that was a great deep dive.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
I hope everyone listening had fun and maybe learned a little something too.
I hope so.
Until next time.
See you later.